She was the Queen of Camelot, a patron saint of elegance. Today, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis would have been 70 years old. A sad anniversary in the wake of the tragic loss of her son, John Jr.
She really lived by that rule, that being a mother was the most important thing.
In this week's People magazine, Susan Tepfer says Jackie was determined to maintain her kids' privacy in order to make their lives as normal as possible.
There's a famous story of Jackie calling up mothers in Caroline's kindergarten class saying, please don't be afraid to invite her to your house, because people were afraid. They were reluctant to invite Caroline.
Now Caroline carries on her mother's legacy of love, raising 3 children of her own. A lot of Americans treasure their memories of President Kennedy and his family, but we found one man whose devotion to JFK led to a bitter and expensive divorce battle. Les Trent explains.
It was written from a South Carolina jail cell last year. A personal note to JFK Jr.
Basically telling him that there are many Americans out there who still love your father, and one that would even go to jail.
That note was from Nick Shishelli, and he did go to jail for President Kennedy's sake, spending a year behind bars for refusing to give up his prized collection of JFK artifacts, which his wife went after in divorce court.
They came after what I love the most.
And love it he did. This treasure trove of Kennedy mementos dating back to the day JFK was shot, when for the first time, Nick saw his own mother shed tears.
She was crying and told me that the president was dead. Seeing my mother cry had a pretty big emotional impact on me, and from that day on I started collecting Kennedy memorabilia.
From photos to campaign flyers to memorable miniatures, Nick went after everything with the president's stamp, even buying a replica of his favorite limousine. It cost him $60,000 and was featured in Oliver Stone's movie JFK. By the early 1990s, Nick had assembled enough Kennedy memorabilia to fill a museum and was showing it at fairs and flea markets around the country, with the focus always upbeat.
If you came to any of my shows on Kennedy, there was nothing on the assassination, absolutely nothing. Kennedy, to me, was like a member of my family.
But Nick's own family was something else. His wife, Barbara, refusing to embrace his passion for the fallen president.
She particularly did not like John Kennedy. I particularly remember when we got married, I had a picture of us, of him up in my bedroom, and she told me to take it down.
Barbara says Nick valued the collection over their family.
He wasn't the involved father that I would have wanted and the children would have wanted.
Eventually, the two grew apart. Divorce followed, and in the property ruling, the judge ordered Nick to surrender the collection to his wife to be auctioned for cash. Nick refused and secretly sold off much of it himself, only to wind up facing a year in county jail for contempt.
Well, I've never been in a courtroom in my life. I was scared.
He debated giving up and surrendering the few remaining mementos, which he values at $35,000, including the now broken down limousine. But finally, out of anger, he decided to stand fast.
My civil rights were being trampled on, and I decided to stay. I said, let's go ahead and do the time.
And he did, quickly earning a nickname from his fellow inmates.
They called me JFK.
Midway through the jail term, Nick wrote his note to John Jr.
I wrote him, and I just asked him for one thing in return from me, to say a prayer for me.
John didn't reply, but his recent tragic death has only strengthened Nick's dedication to his idol. And now that he's out of jail, his ex-wife Barbara expects their battles to resume.
I don't feel that we're anywhere near close to some form of settlement unless he just makes a settlement.
Despite her lack of passion for JFK, she says she'd never break up the collection and accuses Nick of playing fast and loose with public sympathies.
He is exploiting the Kennedy name and our collection.
But Nick says nonsense. For now, he's keeping the collection hidden and out of harm's way, in the belief right is on his side.
You can take away somebody's home, and you can take away somebody's family, but to take away a person's liberty and to take away a person's passion, I don't think that can be done.
Nick only let us see a sample of his collection, possibly because he's afraid the courts will put a price tag on it. Then he would have to pay that amount to his ex-wife in their property settlement. Most movies need